Coming to you from Michigan, USA. And listened to by people all over the planet. Get ready to be safe and sound with Sean Sparkman.
Never take your eyes off your opponent, even when you bow.
Welcome to the Safe and Sound Podcast. This is your host, Sean Sparkman. Excited to have a friend of mine. His name is Mike Selle on the line with me today. Mike, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me, Sean.
Mike, can you tell people a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes, sir. So at least the way that I think business-wise that you and I know each other, I run Selle Financial Company. We're an insurance brokerage agency, and as boring as that sounds, we broker all types of life insurance, annuity products, disability insurance, long-term care, things like that to independent financial advisors like yourself. So I've been in the market or industry, I should say, for about 15, 16 years. I've worked for 3 big companies, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I'm fairly certain big companies weren't huge fans of me. I actually work harder when I'm in charge of cutting my own paycheck, and I've been independent for about 8 or 10 years now. And we go out and get contracts with every insurance company out there, talk to people like you, find out about your clients, try to position the best product based on what they're looking for and their goals are, as opposed to being handcuffed to one product and one company. So outside of that, I spend most of my time outdoors, like we were just talking before the recording here. I'm out in Montana for the next 2-3 months, probably looking at land. I do everything outdoors. I've even got a separate firearms business, but hiking, camping, and doing anything outside with the dog is what I do outside of, all the life insurance stuff that you and I typically talk about here.
That's awesome. I love the great outdoors. And I look forward to getting out there and seeing you sometime. I know you've had that place in Colorado, but wherever you end up, I gotta make my way out there.
I tell everyone if there's like 3 or 4 different major airports in Montana, I'm kind of roaming around the entire summer. So you find a cheap flight at Missoula, Bozeman, wherever you want to fly into, you let me know, and we'll the dog and I will swing and pick you up and go on an adventure from there.
That's cool. So how did you end up getting into the life insurance business in the first place?
Yep, really by chance. So I went to school at Indiana University. Quite honestly, I think the year before I went there, they were named the #1 party school in Playboy magazine. I don't know what that says about my attractions towards college, but quite honestly, even more important than that, they did have a top 10 business school, I believe, at the time. So I went to the Kelley School of Business, got a finance degree, and they really, at least with corporate finance, that's all it was. It was corporate finance. And that's all they pushed. They said, here's how you value a company. Here's how you make a ton of money climbing up the chain and, a Fortune 500 company. I didn't have one class. I didn't even see one that was offered on personal finance. As simple as how to lower taxes or how to save for retirement or protect your, if you have a family with insurance products, you name it. And I was looking to go the investment banking route. I had an uncle that actually worked at Allianz, still does to this day, and wholesaling variable annuities. I didn't know what the hell that was. I'd never heard of those. I didn't realize it was a way where you can guarantee a protected income stream for someone. So I kind of just took it by chance. It was more of a sales role. And again, I worked for 3 big companies, wholesaling everything from variable annuities, mutual funds, life insurance. And then I finally just got to the point I said, well, that's great. As opposed to, like the Kelley School of Business where they're saying, hey, here's how you earn money. I feel like I've now gone to enough, diverse different parts of the personal finance stuff where it's like, okay, you earn money, now how do you protect it and what do you do with it? But I wanted to be independent. I did not want to be, part of a captive company, not to say anything bad about them, but I wanted to go out and say, hey, I can offer all companies and all products to the advisors and their clients that I work with. And I did that about 8 years ago. Interesting story in terms of how I, eventually broke off and started Selle Financial Company, but it really just happened by chance. I said, hey, I'd never heard about this. Everyone wanted to do investment banking. I said, what's personal finance, as silly as it sounds? And kind of fell into it and loved it. And I love it even more now that I'm my own boss and can, pick and choose the people like you that we're fortunate enough to work with and take it from there.
That's cool. It's kind of funny because being in the industry myself, I kind of fell into it. And it seems like even people that I know that have been in the industry 30 plus years, it all kind of happens the same way. I've yet to meet somebody that said, you know what, I grew up and wanted to be a financial advisor or financial planner or an insurance broker. It just doesn't seem to happen that way.
Yeah, and even just saying an insurance broker, that's probably the least sexy thing you could say at a bar to somebody,
Yep.
or even just financial advisor, because they think, all right, they're trying to get after my money. I think that's a good thing in the sense that you probably know this, I'm extremely cynical on our industry. I just think there's a lot of bad apples out there, either people that are doing the wrong thing for their clients that don't know what they're doing, or you take it to the extreme, you got the Bernie Madoffs of the world. But I think it's an interesting story to tell with that mindset, and also have in the back pocket that you are independent and you're not married to any particular company, because I think it gives clients a breath of fresh air saying, look, you worked hard, you earned this money. Let me be open and honest about how to protect it, or do what you want with it for retirement, or, you name the financial planning strategy. So yeah, extremely cynical on it, fell into it, but it's not like a manufacturing job where at the end of the day you can see something that you built, but 20, 30 years from now, your clients can see, their assets, whether their assets are accumulated, protected, you name it, they can achieve their goals. And that's, it takes a long time to kind of, come to fruition, but I take pride in that. I like it. And, you'd be surprised the amount of people that might be in those big corporate jobs at a Fortune 500 company. They have no idea what their financial advisor is doing with their assets. So when you can come in and help explain it to them, it's not a bad gig, and I see all kinds of people that fall into it. I mean, people that have no background in business, in finance, financial planning, anything like that, but you can be your own boss, you can understand tax law and the products that are out there, and, hey, at the end of the day, left or right politically, I don't know many people that aren't. Most people seem to be in favor of keeping more of their money as possible, not giving it to Uncle Sam, and I feel like that's something everyone can agree on. So when you can come to the table and pitch that message, it seems to be one that resonates with most people.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And I think that's a good segue, you mentioning taxes, because, the insurance industry is a confusing place for any consumer, regardless of where they're at in life, because it's different than, say, a mutual fund or a stock that you can just look up online, you can start reading about it. A lot of the insurance products, because they're regulated state by state, it's hard for somebody to just go online and find out, what's an annuity rate or what's a life insurance. They have to talk to an expert. So the reason I bring that up is, one of the ones that really is veiled in the financial planning world is life insurance, and a lot of people think that is a dirty word. I've talked to
I hear you.
A number of different people that are like, I hate life insurance. I don't want anything to do with it. That's not part of my financial planning. So can you just talk a little bit about life insurance and how you think about it and how it maybe might fit into the whole financial planning deal?
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as even just, setting up the question like that, if anyone's listening that's, oh God, life insurance, this is going to be boring, I don't need it. I'm 38 years old, never been married, no kids. I have a permanent life insurance policy, and it's specifically for the tax advantages that are in there. That, to your point, most people don't understand or really want to talk about. I mentioned it earlier. It's just not a sexy thing. If you're sitting down with a client saying, hey, let's talk about life insurance today, if your client doesn't run out of the room, then I think there's something wrong with them. But if you can say, look, there's a way, the traditional sense of life insurance is great. If I die, I give the insurance company $1, but my beneficiaries get $100. It's just leverage. That's what life insurance is. That's how it's been used for a long, long time. But although that plays a key role in terms of, I don't want to say our sales, but the policies that we place, probably even a bigger role is utilizing it with this like tax-free wrapper around it, a tax-free life jacket. And what I mean by that is you can have permanent life insurance where you can essentially put money into a policy and that you have a cash value, you have an investment component that can grow. And the beauty of it is if and when you take money out, and this is all based on IRS tax code 7702, so give it a read if you can't fall asleep at night because it'll bore the hell out of you. But, you can take out what you put in and any gains tax-free. And most people are not aware of that, nor should they be, because who's reading tax code on their free time? I hope nobody. But, you've got municipal bonds, you've got Roth IRAs, and, a lot of times people, you can only invest so much in Roth IRAs. So life insurance, we can use it as, I'd say, a Roth IRA on steroids, but there's also no restrictions. If you can invest the $6,000 a year, if you can invest $60,000 a year, up to your financial means, you can do it. You can take that money out tax-free at any time. There's no 10% penalty like the government places on, taking money out of Roth IRAs. There's just a lot of advantages that are out there. And again, it's to have an advisor that knows the investments, that knows the long-term care stuff, that knows life insurance, that's well-rounded, that's independent. that can pitch that insurance story, I don't think it's as boring as people might initially think because, again, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years. I don't know anybody on either side of the political aisle that's like, hey, I earned $1. I don't want to keep a lot of this. It's like, hey, you invest this. Let's make sure you can get this out of the hands of Uncle Sam and keep as many of these gains as possible. And that's how you can utilize a permanent life insurance policy.
Yeah, I love it. It does have its place in financial planning. There's always a spot to find something depending on, what your situation is. I always tell people they're tools, right? Whether it's an insurance product or a mutual fund or a stock, everything is a tool in a tool belt or a tool bucket. And for each situation that you come across, not every tool is going to always work, but there's usually a place for something. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. And it is a tool. You're not going to use every tool on every job. It's just, yeah. And that kind of goes back to my philosophy. And again, you'll sense how cynical I really am on a lot of the people that do what we do, or try to at least. But yeah, I think a lot of people just try to come to the table and say, hey, there's a screw. We've got to screw it. Let's use a hammer. And they're always going to pitch a life insurance policy, or always going to pitch a disability income policy, or this specific mutual fund when it's not the right tool for the job. I think a lot of captive companies that are out there are a great start. They get you licensed. They help you understand the business. But I think if you can, the most successful advisors I see, maybe they start from a captive company or with them, they get their feet wet, and then they say, hey, it's time to branch out. Like, let's get every tool possible because we don't know what the job's going to be. Look, Selle Financial makes its money when financial advisors like yourself sell the annuities and life insurance products because we're a broker. But we've had plenty of cases where they come to the table and it's like, hey, we're not trying to step on your toes, Mr. or Mrs. Financial Advisor, but this is just not the right tool, or you're putting too much money in it. But to have access to it and know and understand how those products work, I think it makes you guys unstoppable. There's a lot of people that are, again, maybe they just do the investments, and then they find out the brother-in-law does that and life insurance, or vice versa. There's just an insurance agent that doesn't talk about any kind of investing with clients because they're not securities licensed. I think when you can come to the table and, as best to your ability, understand how all these different products work, life insurance being one of them, it makes you dangerous in a good way for clients, because otherwise you don't know about it, your clients don't know about it, and it could be a drag on their retirement if there's a better suited product out there.
Yeah, and I like the point that you're making, and you're talking, a lot of what you just said was towards, advisors, agents, that type of thing. But just from a client perspective, there's a lot of words that are thrown around in the industry, like the word fiduciary, which is simply just means that somebody that's supposed to act in your best interest. But one of the things that I find interesting is if somebody is only working with one thing, or maybe a couple of things, like they only do stocks and bonds, or they only do mutual funds. That's 99% of what they do. How is it that, it's like what you said, you're using a hammer on a screw, you're using the same thing for everything. How is it that you're supposed to be acting in your client's best interest if you don't have access to everything that's out there, because everybody's situation is different?
Yeah, I agree. It's been interesting over the years. I remember when I first got into the industry, there's a lot of just old school stock jockeys. That's what they did. They traded. I'm from Chicago. I met a lot of guys from the Chicago Board of Trade down there that were financial advisors that were really just doing investments. They didn't even want to look at variable annuities, which is the securities. But then over the years, I think clients got smart. They said, hey, these funds that you're putting together are underperforming anyway. I can put this in a low-cost Vanguard fund. I can do it on an app on my phone. So I think almost out of necessity, a lot of other financial advisors they got forced into being financial advisors as opposed to maybe just the investment person, because they couldn't have a conversation that can compete with an app on clients' phones. That's at least what I witnessed with a lot of these guys. So I'd be calling on people for, 5, 7, 10 years, and they say, okay, maybe I need to hear about this annuity, this life insurance, you name the type of insurance product, because they were almost forced into doing financial planning, as opposed to just being a one-trick pony. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's your specialty, but the most successful offices and the successful plans that I see put together for clients are somebody, maybe that's it's a financial advisor that's okay at a lot of different things, but maybe they reach out to an expert. Like, we're the insurance dorks. That's all we do. I mean, again, it makes for a horrific bar conversation, but that's what we do, so you can lean on us to talk the life insurance and annuity stuff. But then maybe you have another CPA that you can reach out to for taxes, or an attorney for trust work. at the very least have that set up or understand the other products that are out there. But I did see a lot of advisors over the years that I think they're, again, they just kind of got held to the fire and said, look, if you want to make some money and keep these clients, you got to do real financial planning. That's understanding everything that's out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I really like your point about having a network of people that you work with. Like I work with you for the life insurance planning, and it's a really big thing because I started in the life insurance industry and then moved into financial planning over the years. And, I have a very strong background in it, but it's what you live, breathe, eat, and it's what you do all day, every day. So I always come to you with financial plans to discuss what product might fit, what's here, because you're more on top of the day-to-day, because I'm dealing with client planning on a day-to-day basis, which includes products, but I'm not necessarily 100% the best product expert in the way that you might be.
Yep. Yeah, and we don't try to act that we're anything that we're not. And it goes both ways. I've got an office actually a huge office out in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was calling these guys about, just more so investment stuff the other day, how to take money out of qualified plans to, put it into essentially a tax-free asset class. But it was everything on the investment side. And I am securities licensed. I do have retail clients, although that's my specialty is, the brokerage agency working with you. But same deal. I'm not going to try to pretend something that I'm not. If it's a complex, investment question, I'll be giving you a call and say, hey, what do I have to do here? How does this work? Do you have any other ideas that maybe I should know about? And I think that's how it should be. It'd be great if I was an expert in 50, different areas of financial planning. I don't know anyone that is. And if they say they are, I'd be a little skeptical on that anyway.
Right. At the end of the day, it's not about being the smartest mind in the room. It's about being able to to work with the smartest minds in the room. So being able to have a network of people, like you said, the CPA, the life insurance, the annuities, whoever it may be, whatever realm of financial planning it may be, having that network just makes it more powerful, not only for the advisor, but for the end client, which is the most important thing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I try to stay in my lane. It could be on the insurance stuff in the financial planning arena. You pick I don't even want to say a political topic, just any topic. There's things I care about. There's things I care about and know about, and those are the ones that I'll discuss and go back and forth with someone, asking their opinion, their facts, things like that. But yeah, when it comes to the financial planning, it's, we know tax code and products as it relates to insurance and annuities. That's what we do. That's what we're experts on, and I have no shame in my game to lean on other people. Even if a client comes to me and they're asking a trust question, I'll call my attorney, Bob, out in Illinois and say, what does this mean? What does this trust language mean? I've read a million different trusts, but, I'm not an attorney. That's not going to be a surprise to anybody, but, lean on people like that to be the experts in what they do.
Yeah, I love it. I want to switch gears just a little bit. So we talked a little bit about permanent life insurance. Now, this is a little bit of a deep dive into the differences on permanent life insurance, because I'm sure everybody out there has heard of term and whole life, and maybe you've heard of universal, but then there's different types of universal. So I'm asking you a really big loaded question here, but can you just kind of dive in a little bit into the different types and where they may or may not be used?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to kind of distinguish all the different types of life insurance is, let's start with just two. There's term and then there's permanent life insurance. Term is the most basic thing to understand. It's the cheapest premiums I have to pay for a policy. So, I need $1 million of 20-year term. I'm 38 years old. I'm healthy. That's going to cost me $500 a year, roughly, let's just say, for a 20-year term policy. So if I croak in 20 years, my brother, because he's my beneficiary, he's going to get $1 million, and I think he'll be sad and happy at the same time. But that's all it is. It's short-term, cheap coverage. And the best way to look at term is, what are the cheapest premiums I need to pay for this death benefit? And there's a reason it's so cheap. 99 or something, I don't remember the limber statistic, but I think it's 99% of all term policies don't pay out, because they're not going to give a 20-year term policy to an 85-year-old, because they're like, hey, morbid, but that guy's going to die and we're going to have to pay it out. We can't make money on it.
Right.
But term serves its place. It's short-term coverage. It's cheap. It's there, especially if you're starting a family, or whatever the case may be, for income replacement, things like that.
Or
permanent insurance.
Buy-sell agreements. So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
As well, for business owners.
Absolutely. For business owners, which, not to get sidetracked, that's a market that a lot of advisors say they understand, that they don't. But that's key. I mean, if you want to ensure the success of your business, let's reward and retain and keep these key employees, or if something bad happens, they die or become disabled, let's put a policy in place where that business is going to get an inflow of cash to go out and hire somebody else and keep the lights on and keep the business running. So yeah, term absolutely has its place. Outside of that, you have permanent insurance. Permanent insurance is insurance that can last forever, and it can have a cash value component, is really the easiest way to think about it. So most people have probably heard about whole life. It's probably the most old school traditional policy that's out there. And then you have everything else. You have universal life, index universal life, variable universal life, all these different kinds. And I can get into the details on specific products if you want in a minute, but again, it's insurance that'll last forever, and it has a cash value component.
Yeah, you mentioned business owners,
yep.
so I just want to segue there real quick. So,
yeah.
We talked about term for buy sells, but you can also use permanent for buy sells or key person insurance, or for succession planning. Like you had helped me about a year and a half ago with a gentleman and his family member that own a business together, and planning for the succession and sale of that business to the family member once the time came. So what does that kind of look like? Because I think that's really an underserved area of like the whole financial world.
Yeah, so you're talking buy-sell agreements in particular?
No, just succession planning in particular, and how life insurance may not fit in.
Yeah, and this is terrible because I should know these stats. Principal, one of the 60, 70 companies that we offer, they have a great deal where they can come in and value a business, and this will lead into succession planning, because they're going to say, great, Sean, you've got a business, what's it worth? And if I ask you that, whatever number you give me, I can promise you from doing 1,000 different business valuations, it's going to be either extremely low or way too high based on really what it's valued, if you got an accountant looking at it with the key valuation methods that are out there. But it's important to know that, because in terms of succession planning, let's say you have two kids, one that wants to take over your business and another one that doesn't, from an estate planning point of view. Again, how do you ensure that business survives if you don't? And there's a million different ways to do that, from buy-sell agreements, key person policies, executive benefit type strategies you can put in place for key employees. It really is an untapped market. Most people, I think, or most financial advisors are used to, hey, let's meet at the kitchen table, let's look at some mutual funds, some annuities, maybe some life insurance, and just go from there. But when you get into the business owner marketplace, there's so many moving parts. What kind of business is it? An LLC versus an S corp? What state are you in? Again, kind of getting back to the taxes thing. But what kind of insurance policy do you want to put in place so you can sleep easy at night? And some of the key employees are going to sleep easy too. If you've got something in place where you got a guy underneath you, let's say, but you put a life insurance policy in place where he knows that if you die or become disabled, he'll have the funds and the cash inflow necessary to buy out your shares from your wife, let's say. And it's a good thing to utilize life insurance for that. What I previously mentioned is I give the life insurance company $1. If something bad happens to me, they give my beneficiaries $100. It's leverage. It's the most traditional sense of life insurance. So if you can have a key employee involved in that, where he's like, man, I only had to pay $1 and I get this $100 to buy out, Sean's ownership stake from his wife, that's a lot easier than just taking out $1 from his investment account to do it, or $100 from his investment account, I should say. So utilizing the leverage of life insurance, if a crappy situation like that comes up, to buy out ownership shares, to keep the business running, to keep all the other employees happy, I think it's a vital thing to discuss with business owner clients. But again, if I had to put a percentage on it, honestly, I'd say 5-10% of all financial advisors that we see and we work with actually understand that market and all the different tools that are available. Because you can understand buy-sell agreements or key person policies, but you might not understand the tax stuff associated with it. So if you're an S corp versus a C corp versus this kind of LLC, you might want to structure it differently. So yeah, to have someone that's immersed in that market, that works in that market quite often, is a good thing to have, because you don't want to just slap a term insurance policy. If you and I own a business, we buy an insurance policy on each other. So if one of us dies, we can use the money to buy out the other's ownership shares from their family. You could structure that in a lot of wrong ways if you don't understand what type of business it is, what state it's in, things like that.
Well, and one of the really powerful things that I like in regards to the planning and the utilization of, say, a permanent life insurance policy from a tax perspective is the ability to put the dollars away, sometimes tax deductible, sometimes not to a business, but to then have that cash value grow tax free for the business. And like say from a business owner perspective, to then one day be able to turn that cash value into, say, an income stream during retirement, or use that income stream as a way of, buying or selling the business. And there's a lot of different ways to utilize it, but I think that's a really powerful feature.
Yeah, and to add on that, I know I kept talking about like a term insurance policy. Let's say, you and I bought that, but kind of getting back to the question a couple minutes ago, permanent insurance, you can spend as much money as you want to for a life insurance policy. So clients will say, well, why the hell would I want to pay more for an insurance policy? It's like, well, we know we have the death benefit. It's permanent insurance. That'll last forever. So you and I are business partners. You die. I get money to buy out your ownership stake and keep the business going. But I funded the hell out of this permanent life insurance policy. I shoved it full of cash. Let's say $100,000. It's now grown to $200,000. Well, I can take out roughly $200,000 tax-free if you're alive and well to buy out your shares during retirement, or again, maybe just to pay some kind of tax-free income stream to myself, to you, to a key employee, you name it. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it really can do a lot of different things that most people are unaware of. So if you look at permanent insurance for business succession planning and things like that, you've got the protection via the death benefit, because it is life insurance at the end of the day. You've got this tax-free investment component that you can use for a retirement income stream, or to maybe buy out another owner or key employee or something like that over a 5, 10, 20-year period, you name it. And there's some other ancillary benefits. They have these like free long-term care riders, which is maybe I don't know if it's another conversation for another day, but there's a lot of things that can be packaged into an insurance policy to help deal with that blow should something come up.
Yeah, long-term care is a loaded topic. I think that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sometime soon. But let's I want to go just a little bit deeper, because we kind of talked about some of the strategies and things that you can do. So just to get a little bit more specific on the permanent policies, you mentioned there's a few different types, from whole life to the different types of universal. Can you just do a little bit of a deep dive, and then we'll kind of wrap it up after that?
Yep. Whole life, let's start with that. It's everyone hears whole life is expensive. It is, but whole life is based on guarantees. So if I'm paying, let's just say $1,000 in premium a year for a $100,000 death benefit, whole life works where, look, at 20 years, you're guaranteed to have $20,000, which is the total that you put in over that time. If and when that insurance company pays a dividend, that $20,000 is going to be even higher. Maybe it grows to $25,000. So the whole life is really based on guaranteed cash values and guaranteed death benefit. But you're paying for that. There's a lot of cost in whole life policies because you're paying for those guarantees.
Right.
On the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you have variable universal life. When you invest that $100,000 a year, it's in a variable policy, which means it's a securities-related product, so think mutual funds. So your $1,000 that you're paying every year, that can grow by 10, 15, 20%. It can go down 10, 15, 20, 30%. It's invested in mutual funds. So the account value that those premiums are going into are based on mutual fund performance. They're called sub-accounts, but it's mutual funds.
Yeah, and just
then
real quick there, I just want to jump into the mutual fund side. So that also means that in order for it to grow, you have to not only get the right mutual funds, but you still have to pay all the fees on the mutual funds and the costs on the variable side in the first place, right?
Absolutely. And look, there's no lie. I don't care if it's whole life, variable universal life, index universal life, which we'll talk about here. There are costs in insurance policies, because if I pay $1,000 and you die, or I die, in my example, the insurance company's on the hook for $100,000. So there's cost of insurance is actually a very minimal charge in a properly funded life insurance policy. There's all these other fees. There's these premium charges. There's these, state mandated premium charges, I should say. There's per 1,000 base charges, all this boring stuff. But life insurance, when you're looking at it from like an investment point of view, is a long-term product. If someone's ever talking to a client saying, yeah, pay into this for 3 or 4 years, you could take money out in year 5, they're doing a disservice to you. Quite honestly, you're better off taking your money and just throwing it in the fire. It's not going to work out that way. So it is a long-term investment vehicle, or longer term, because there are those costs, especially within the first 5 to 10 years of insurance policies. And that's because it is insurance. Outside of that, if it's properly funded, you can have a policy that can really grow for you and really produce a lot of tax-free income in the future if done correctly.
And so you were going on from variables. What was the next step from there?
So variable, and again, variable had a bad name because 10, 12 years ago, people were illustrating this. They're saying, hey, our mutual funds are going to average 12% rate of return, pays, real small amount into this life insurance policy, meaning it's minimally funded. Those times have changed and rightfully so. Shove a ton of money in a variable universal life policy because you're going to lower the costs, illustrate it at 7-8%, depending on the mutual funds that you choose. Just be conservative, kind of under promise, over deliver. But what's really, caught steam here probably within the last 15 years, and I think they've been around since like the late 70s technically, but it's index universal life. And the tag used for that is you win by not losing. And here's what I mean by that. Think of an index, like the most common, the S&P 500. Most people know what that is. It's, the top 500 domestic companies in the U.S. And the way these index policies work is they're going to say, we're going to give you a floor and a cap. So let's just say it's 0 and 12, just throwing it out as an example. And there's all different kinds of indexes you can choose from. But when you pay that $1,000 premium in your insurance policy, if the S&P does 20% in year one, they're going to give you a 12% credit on your money because you're capped at 12. But let's say the next year, from year 2 to year 3, the S&P is down 10%. You're getting 0. And let's say the following year, the S&P is up 5%. Well, you're in between your floor and your cap, so you'll get 5%. But that's why we say you win by not losing with index universal life policies. And the reason that's important, and this is just basic math, and you've probably heard this example given a million times, but if I have $1 invested somewhere and the market's down 50% from year 1 to year 2, my dollar goes from $1 to 50 cents. And then from year 2 to year 3, the market's up 50%. My dollar grows from 50 cents to 75 cents. Now, my average rate of return is negative 25% over those 2 years. My average rate of return, is what was I going to say? Is 0, essentially. So you would think that you did not lose any money. Your actual rate of return is negative 25%. Because you have to recoup those previous years where you lost money. The beauty with index universal life policies is you're not going to have a negative year. So if the S&P is down 10%, who cares? You got 0. And then from the next year on, if it's up, you'll get, whatever that percentage increase was up to your cap. And so it's a good policy because it's, you can quote unquote participate in the market, although they are a fixed product. Well, you have all these different indexes you can choose from. You can protect all your downside with the floor, and the caps on these things are great. And they're even going up right now. So you can, it can kind of look and feel like a conservative variable universal life policy. Let's somewhat, quote unquote, play in the market, but let's protect our downside with those 0% floors. And that's where index universal life policies. I have one of my own, and I'm using it for tax-free income. And the beauty of it is, again, you win by not losing.
Yeah, makes sense to me. So, Mike, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
It's funny. I keep thinking of that long-term care thing. That's probably a whole different series of podcasts because it's very important. Because even if you don't think about it, for me at 38 years old, I got to think about it at some point because I have family members or friends of, the family or things like that them or their parents are going through it. Not really, Sean, that I can think of. I think it's a good, just overview, not just of what I do, but of the insurance market in general. For anyone listening, and this isn't for me, this is for any other independent agent or advisor out there. But I think talking to someone that's independent, get multiple, points of view and opinions on your money that you worked hard for, and try to keep as much of that as possible. And again, it's not because I'm sitting here on a podcast with you, but if clients can reach out to an advisor like yourself, that you can pick and choose what companies you want to work with, I think that's the best fit for them. So not any particular questions I can think that we forgot. I love hitting that point home because I'm independent. I can't wear just one company's logo on the back of my jersey. And I think if clients are working with an advisor that's like-minded like that, they'll be in a good spot because they're going to get an unbiased point of view.
Hey, I'm with you 100% there. I think the independent market is the place to be. It's how I do my business, obviously, and I absolutely love it because I know that I can always find the right thing for whatever client that I'm, working with. Mike, thank you very much for being on the show. Definitely need to get you back on sometime soon. We'll talk about long-term care and do a deep dive on that one. Everybody that's been listening, appreciate your listening. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Appreciate it, Sean.
Thanks for listening to Safe and Sound Radio with Sean Sparkman. If you have questions or would like to suggest a topic for future shows, contact Sean at 313-246-9278 or visit the website at www.safeandsoundretirement.net. That's www.safeandsoundretirement.net.
I must leave.